Hello, this is Kari Fell. Welcome to my studio.
I went thrifting yesterday. Went out to Valley Village, which is the same company as Savers for people in the US. And I picked up this Crockpot. It cost me $7.99. And it's an oldie, but I plugged it in. It works just fine. So I'm going to try a new technique. I have a partial warp here that I wound just to clean off a cone. So it's the last of my pure white of this type of wool. It is 55 ends, 3 yards long. And I have no particular plan for this warp. I was just going to see what came to me. So the first thing I'll do is I will soak the warp. And I still have some water here that has acid in it. This is from a previous dye bath. So we'll soak it in there for I don't know, half an hour or so. I'm not sure what colors to use, so I do have a new blue, so I know for sure I'm going to use this. Let's draw some colors randomly and see what happens. This is not necessarily a color dyeing game, but okay, I'm not looking. Avocado, turquoise, golden pear, avocado, turquoise, and golden pear, and flag blue. Okay, this is going to be something completely different for me. If I sound muffled, I am wearing a mask, because today I'm going to use the powders as powders. I'm not going to use the dye in solution today. Here's my skein of yarn. So I'm going to lay it down. It's a little longer than one time around, which is good. Need my hands dry. So I'm going to dip into the powders with a palette knife and just drop a little bit right directly on the yarn. There's not a lot of yarn here, so I think a tiny sprinkle will do it. That's the flag blue. This is the turquoise. Which comes off as looking red or purple in the container. I don't know if you can see that, but definitely looks purple. I'm washing off the knife so I don't contaminate the containers. Now I don't know if it's striking already, if that's going to be a problem. I hope that it's not, because I do want a bit of color mixing. So I'll take some of this acid water and pour it down the middle. It's cold water. I want everything to be submerged. Okay, the pot is plugged in. I'll put the lid on it and I'm going to turn it up to high. And I'm just going to leave it to let's submerge that. And I'm going to leave it and let it cook on high. And I'll play it by ear, but I'm guessing it needs at least a few hours, knowing slow cookers. But the beauty of it is I can just leave it and let it heat up and slowly absorb to the yarn. So I'm already liking the colors that happened once I let me take a look. Once I added water, interesting color appeared. So hopefully I have enough of the powder in there to make something interesting. You can see that the powder is still not dissolved into the water. The water is cold and it's already hit the yarn and probably already struck to some of the yarn, but I'm hoping there's enough undissolved powder in there that once the water starts boiling, it'll make it dissolve more and maybe dissipate throughout the yarn. Now to leave it for a few hours and go work on some other projects. It's been about half an hour and I couldn't help but peek. It looks like the dye is dissolving into the water. There's still blotches where I applied it, and if that's the nature of this dyeing process, well, that'll be interesting to see. I'm not going to stir. I'm still just going to leave it and see what happens just by leaving it to bubble. But I like how the water has taken on the color, so things are going to blend together, I think. Exciting! It's been over 2 hours now on high. And it seems to be bubbling a bit. I want to see what the color's like. Oops, I steamed up my camera, didn't I? And now you can't see the beautiful blues and greens. The water is clear. Wow. It took all the color already. Let's see if I can fix this. I'm gonna hold the camera off to the side here instead of directly overhead. Look at the colors. Aren't those gorgeous? And the water is clear. There we go again. It looks like it's most of the color is in the yarn. Oh, look at the marks on the bottom. I wonder what that means. Interesting. Can't be burnt, not with all this water in here. There's some browns in there. Interesting. Since the color seems to be completely the yarn, I can turn it off and I'll just let it cool down in the pot. So this has cooled down in the pot. I think it's been about 7 or 8 hours since we first put it in. And yeah, it's cool. The water looks clear. There, interesting. The yarn is beautiful. Some gorgeous color in here. I'm seeing little brown bits, and I don't know if this is the color breaking in the yarn or if there was maybe something in my pot. It was my first. See little bits of brown here and here and here. Looks beautiful. I'm hoping it isn't something like burnt yarn though. Just because the pot has areas on it that are looking suspicious to me. The bottom of the pot. Well, maybe not. Anyway, I'm going to put this in the pan and we will wash it out. It looks like all the dye powder dissolved and then went into the yarn. So, yep, just needed the tiniest sprinkle to give some pretty deep color. So I'll wash this and hang it to dry, and then we'll take a look at it when it's dry. So here's the finished and dry yarn. It is gorgeous. Where I dropped the dry powders, we have this deep dark color, and then by adding the water, it allowed it to dissolve and spread slightly. So we have these very dark areas and we have lighter areas. So this is the flag blue, the turquoise, the avocado, and then the pear, although of course it mixed around. Now what caused me to pause when I first pulled it out of the dye bath was these areas here. I had these sort of brown, almost rusty areas, and there's a few blotches of them around. And that slightly worried me, 'cause just from what I saw in the crock pot, I saw lines of yarn at the bottom, like yarn-shaped lines at the bottom of the crock pot. And that made me a little afraid that the yarn had stuck to the bottom and burned. But I don't think that's the case, and this is what I think did happen. My crock pot was used from the thrift store, and it had been used to cook food in the past. I did wash it before I used it for the yarn, but there was some residue still in there that hadn't come off. So when I cooked my yarn in the crock pot, it caused some changes to the residue that was in there, and some of the dye actually stuck to the residue. And so I think I was seeing that. The yarn itself is fine. And what I did is I went back and I looked at my video footage of how I laid the yarn in the pot, and then I lined this up in the same way and looked at it. And I noticed that these blotches
are where I dropped the golden pear powder. So what we have here is the golden pear breaking, basically. So this brown area is where golden pear split between the greenish yellows and the browns. So what I think happens is these browns hit the yarn and adhered right away, and then it took a while longer for the other colors in golden pear to spread out and color the yarn. So I'm going to do, I think, some more experiments with the golden pear and see if it indeed can be broken into brown and greens. Ah, lovely. What a beautiful, beautiful work. So this is only, this is 55 ends. I'm going to decide what to do with this. Ooh, I love how the colors mixed. And I really do love the browns in there. That's a nice unexpected surprise that I really enjoy. So, let me know what you think I should do with this work. Should I weave it up or should I put it in my store? Leave your vote in the comments below and I will make my decision for what to do with this based on what you say. I'm definitely going to be doing some more dyeing in my crock pot. I have since scrubbed it with baking soda and it seems to have removed that residue that was in my crock pot, and I won't have that showing up on the sides of the pot. It didn't make any difference to the yarn. It was fun and easy to dye in my crock pot. It gives me a different feel than my other dyeing methods. I really enjoyed this. I'm definitely going to be doing more crock pot dyeing. So stay tuned, like and subscribe and all that. If you'd like to help support me, please check out my Patreon. This is Kari Fell. Thank you for watching.